we're going to jump right back into it. This is episode 2. We're going to talk about situationships, friends with benefits, the hookup, and one-night stands, okay? So with that being said, we might as well just jump right into it. The first thing that I want to tell you is I am not here to judge anyone about how they live their life, what they do morally, and what they believe in. I am simply here to talk about facts and things that really go on. And the reason I'm bringing these things up is because a lot of people will have these conversations about these situations that I'm going to bring up that they will be in with other people, but they won't have the conversation with the person that they're in the situation with. So hopefully we can shed a little light, and you can tell me what you think of this. You can always go on my Instagram, which is at Ethan the Truth, as well. I have a Twitter account that's Ethan the Truth as well. And then obviously here on my Station Head account is under Ethan the Truth as well. If you have an Apple device, make sure you go on Station Head, download the app for free. Also follow Station Head on Instagram as well. So let's start off with the first one. Let's talk about situationships. A situationship is a physical relationship where there is actually no discussion has been had or agreed upon about this physical relationship. It just kind of happened. Maybe these two individuals met up by chance, because they know some of the same people, and they ran into each other several times, and it turned into a physical situation between the two of them with no actual relationship or boundaries or anything established. Usually it takes place at a time when it's convenient for both of the individuals. They don't really line it up. It just kind of happens, kind of works out when either party is available to do so. And then the thing about it that you have to remember is because nothing has actually been established, like when you're actually trying to learn to get to know someone and date someone, a situationship has no actual end date. What I mean by that is a person could drop you like a hot potato at any time, essentially, because they have nothing tying them to you where they have to tell you one thing or another thing about how they feel or what their expectations are, or if they decide they don't want to have any further communication with this individual. Also, what happens a lot of times in a situationship is because there's nothing established, you will often run into this individual somewhere else, and you will see them with another person. And it will usually cause some type of hurt feelings and an unjustified sense of betrayal. Now, what I mean by that is because nothing has actually been established, you may feel betrayed because you will be thinking like, oh, this person is with someone else over here when you run into them. But because nothing's actually been established, that's why I refer to it as an unjustified sense of betrayal. Okay. That will usually have the individual wondering, is that their brother? Is that their sister? Is that a friend of theirs? Is it a family member, a cousin? Do they have a situationship going on with that individual? Usually hurt feelings will end up being involved in a situationship if you run into this individual and see them with someone else. Okay. One more point I want to make about it, again, and reiterate, is that it has no end date. At any time, you could get dropped like a hot potato. Okay. So it's very important to keep that in mind because nothing has been established. Nothing really has to be communicated. This isn't about being courteous and being nice to an individual because this isn't an actual friend. This doesn't have any set rule or boundaries or anything that's been established in this. Okay. Now, I don't like to beat dead horses, so I'm going to keep moving. Let's talk about the friends with benefits situation. All right. Friends with benefits and situationships sounds a lot alike. It's two individuals who aren't in a real relationship and they're engaging in a physical relationship together. But there's actually a huge difference. The biggest difference with a friend with benefit relationship, situationships have nothing established, whereas a friends with benefits, they have the actual establishment of being friends. There's usually some type of further communication beyond a physical situation. They may have actually been friends first. They may actually be close friends. They usually have respect for one another. They usually hang out in a circle of friends where everyone knows each other. And not only that, it's usually not a secret amongst a circle of friends that these two individuals are friends with benefits. Usually if they're out drinking, I'll give you, for instance, the joke may come up, or, so-and-so's going home with so-and-so, because everyone in that circle of friends knows that these two individuals are friends with benefits. Whereas I'm going to dial back to a situationship. A lot of times a situationship is more of a secret. It's kind of on a need to know basis where the two individuals know, but either neither one of them are really telling other people, or only one of them is probably telling other people and the other person's probably not saying anything and possibly denying. Okay. So, the friends with benefits also usually has a possible end date. The reason I said that it has a possible end date or an expiration date, however you want to view it, is because by them being friends, if one of them decides that this isn't working out for them, or I met someone that I'm really interested in now that I want to date, because they have a friendship, they're a lot less likely to drop the other person like a hot potato, because they're going to want to make sure they keep communication with them. They value their friendship. They value their feelings. They also have the connection usually of the circle of friends that they're all attached to, which means if you drop this one individual like a hot potato, it's going to have a domino effect on the circle of friends usually. Okay. And they usually don't want that. So situationships, no end date, no expiration date. You can get dropped at any time. Friends with benefits, a possible expiration date where you could get dropped. But it will usually have a conversation had between those two individuals because they're actually friends and have a mutual respect for one another there. Okay. I'm going to keep rolling here now. Let's talk about the hookup situation. The first thing I'm going to tell you that I told you at the end about the other two situations is the hookup situation has no end date. Okay. This is definitely a hot potato. Drop you, may never hear from you again. Person may pretend they don't even know you. Okay. This is what the hookup situation is. Usually, these are two people who have mutual friends. They kind of know each other by face, may not really know each other well, maybe know each other a little bit through social media, have no type of real connection to each other. They just kind of know each other through other people some kind of way. And usually what ends up happening in a hookup situation, not all the time, but someone gets the short end of the stick. So what I mean by that is there may be an expectation there after the hookup of, oh, so, when are we going to see each other again? Or, what am I going to talk to you? Or, what are you looking for? Or, are you looking to date or whatever? And then the other person may, just kind of be like, whoa, I wasn't looking for any of that. I don't know what you're talking about. It was just a situation to me that happened. And, hey, I got to go. And so, the hookup situation is probably one of the riskiest situations because you can't read another person's mind, and you definitely can't read another person's heart or anything like that. And you can't guess at what you think someone else is expecting or what's expected. So sometimes in a hookup situation, it could seem like a Disney World fantasy where everything's beautiful when you, are hooking up with this person and they're being kind to you. And, let's just say, and like I said, this is on both spectrums. I'm talking about men and women. I'm not beating up on men. I'm not beating up on women. I'm talking about both sides of the playing field. But because I'm a man, I'm just going to use a man as an example. He may open the door for you. He may put his jacket on you that evening. He may be very kind, say gentle things. He may engage in conversation with you that evening, because of however he met you in that setting, because the hookup setting is very random. It could be a wedding. It could be in all seriousness, not a joke here, it could be a funeral. Anything where a person could have a conversation and one thing could lead to another. It could be any kind of social setting where you run into an individual and this person may put their best foot forward because they may be a very nice person, but that doesn't mean that they're looking for anything long term other than just that hookup situation if it presents itself. So that's why I said it can usually leave someone wanting more and with the short end of the stick because they may feel like they did not get what they were hoping to get out of that situation. Okay. So situationships, no possible end date, could end at any time. Friend with benefits, usually a possible end date because they have a mutual respect and a friendship for one another and they care about feelings usually. And they're also the circle of friends that are usually connected to them. Hookup, completely random, similar to situationship, no possible end date, could expire at any time. You may never hear from this individual again. That's going to bring me to point number 4 for the discussion, which is the one night stand. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, a hookup is just like a one night stand. Well, it's a little bit different than a hookup because unlike the hookup where you may feel like there was a little bit of rapport and you kind of knew this person and maybe you all knew each other from social media or you ran into them a few times in social settings or a friend of a friend or your friend's cousin, usually in a hookup or something like that. The one night stand is a complete stranger, someone that you usually don't know at all. At least it's a possibility that that's what could come from the one night stand. So usually in that situation, I don't need to explain to you that has no end date. One night stand, sometimes people don't even remember when these things occur. So we don't need to even discuss the fact that has no end date. Usually when these things occur, and not all the time, but usually when the one night stand situations occur on both sides of the spectrum, male and female, usually there's somewhere where there's a void, something that's being compartmentalized and it's being substituted, therefore, for the sexual act itself. But that's not always true. I mean, some people just like the single life and they just, enjoy one night stands. So, I mean, that's always a possibility too, especially depending on the person's lifestyle, because everyone has a different type of lifestyle. And again, I'm not talking about which one of these 4 things is the better one. I'm not saying you need to try to avoid this or avoid that or do this and do that. I'm simply talking about things that really happen, really exist. I'm not passing moral judgment on anyone about how they decide to live their lives. That's none of my business. That's to each and every individual. What I will say is the thing that's most important is to realize if you're in any one of these 4 situations, which any one of us can be in, and this is another show for another day, but I am going to address the different situations over this period of the relationship information that I'm going to deliver this week that I have been in. I will tell you right now, without getting into each individual situation itself, I'm guilty of being in all 4 of these situations. I will tell you that none of them usually end very well. There's usually some kind of collateral damage on either side of the spectrum. Could be the male or the female. Doesn't have to be one particular person. Okay. So another thing to remember is sometimes when you're talking about hooking up, not the one night stand, we're going to eliminate the one night stand. But if you're talking about hookups, friends with benefits, or situationships where there may be a possibility that the 2 individuals have had some type of encounter before, not all the time, but sometimes there can be an exposed weakness that allows one person a higher end of the playing field than the other person. And the reason I say that is because if you know a little bit about somebody, let's say if you're friends with benefits and they've been telling you things and you all have been friends first, or if you've seen this person on random occasions, or you're a friend of a friend and that friend has exposed certain information about this person, you know a little bit about them. And so if you were seeking to get something out of them, you would be able to do it a little bit better than a one night stand, because you know some things that give you a little more leverage on the playing field. Now, if you're in this situation, like I said, and none of these things have been openly discussed as far as what's expected or someone looking towards dating, I'm not trying to say that you could be justified if the situation doesn't turn out the way that you hoped it did. I'm just simply saying that if someone has a little more leverage, there's always a potential that someone could exploit the situation. Okay. Like you said, manipulative, that's definitely a possibility. When someone has access, let's use this example quick. Let's use the example of the stock market. If you have access to what they would call insider trading, you could definitely manipulate numbers to go in your direction. Essentials, thank you for bringing up sounds manipulative. You're right. That gave me a great analogy. I appreciate you. Thank you. Bougie Latte. She's probably drinking some coffee right now. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate that. Nunu, I see you there. Thank you. I appreciate the support. So yeah, it definitely could be manipulative. It's very possible, because you could exploit something if you have information. Let's see. Another thing I'm going to roll back to here is when I was talking about how there could be collateral damage. And I'm not proud of this. Okay. I've been in these situations. I am guilty of sometimes selfishly treating these situations how I want them to be treated. Okay. So with that being said, about collateral damage, the playing field is usually hardly ever even when you take out the equation of friends with benefits. Friends with benefits situation is usually more balanced out because the two people actually know each other. Like I said, they run in a circle. There's more collateral damage, more dominoes to fall. But if you're talking about a situationship, or you're talking about hooking up or one night stands, there's usually going to be the Mack truck, Toyota Prius effect. And what I mean by that is, if you run those two vehicles into each other, it doesn't take a genius to tell you which one of them is going to come out on the winning end. There will be collateral damage done to the Prius. I am not calling the woman the Prius. I am not calling the man the Mack truck. The man could be the Prius. The woman could be the Mack truck. It just depends on who has more leverage and who has more control, or who may be able to exploit whatever they want out of the situation, or who may just decide to drop one or the other like a hot potato when the other person was really feeling something and wanting to get to know them and had some higher expectations. It could be the male or the female. But I'm telling you, outside of the friends with benefits situation, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have a Mack truck and you're going to have a Prius. The only way to keep yourself out of this situation is to have an honest conversation with the individual before you get into any one of these situations. That is the only way. Expectations have to be laid out on the table so that you can get the truth. All right. And when I say the truth, I mean the real truth. So I'm going to use one more analogy for you. Okay. When do you check out of a hotel? Do you check out of a hotel when you just grab your bags and walk out of the front door? Okay. You may say you checked out because you left the hotel room and you don't plan on coming back. But when you get billed for 3 more days on your credit card, you're going to be highly upset, right? Because you didn't actually check out. You didn't stop at the front desk. But guess what? Stopping at the front desk means you got to ask the right questions. And you better know what questions you want to ask. And you better ask them ahead of time. Okay? So, like I said, usually in these situations, there will be collateral damage, unfortunately. And it could be on either side of the spectrum. All right? So, Essentials. I hear you. I hear you. Play it safe. Do what you do. Play it safe. Got to be safe. So, situationships, friends with benefits, hooking up, one night stands. These are all relationships, but they have an asterisk next to them, because any type of relationship you have with a person is a relationship, especially if it's physical, but it does not mean that it's actually dating. And it does not mean that there will be a guarantee or an expectation behind it, especially if you're in one of these four situations. Okay. So, like I said, have the conversations up front. Hopefully, you know what your expectations are. If you're in one of these situations, what the other person's expectations are as well. And if you don't, hey, like Extension just said, lay it all on the line, get it out there and get it out there ahead of time. And if you're already in the situation and you're feeling uneasy about it, then you better get it out there as soon as possible, because the sooner you get the information out there, the better it's going to be. All right. So I hope this episode was better for you. I am still going to drop a third episode. You will have to tune in and get ready to figure out what that is going to be. Thank you. Essentials. I appreciate your support big time. Make sure you download the Station Head if you have an Apple phone. Follow Station Head on Instagram. And I thank you, everyone who's been supporting me and watching my shows. I really appreciate it. There are a lot of dope people on this app with a lot of great music. Bougie Latte, she exposes a lot of dope indie music. Okay, so make sure you go follow her and listen to her. All right, stay tuned for my next episode. I will try to bring you all something good again, and hopefully we can have more great discussions. As I always say at the end of my Instagram, you heard this information. I gave you what I gave you. It's up to you what you do with it. So now go be great.